All right, welcome to Nerds Explain It All. I'm Zach.
I'm Lance.
And we are the nerds who are going to be explaining it all to you.
Woot.
Woot, woot. Root, root, root. What is woot, anyway? When did that start?
I'm not sure.
Is it like an urbanization of root?
Who knows, man?
I don't know, man. See, we can't explain that because it's not a nerdy subject. But we do know a lot of stuff about nerd topics. I'd say I'm probably like a level 7 nerd. Lance, you're probably like a level 12 nerd.
Okay.
So you have a little more nerd cred than me, a little more overreaching knowledge in all aspects of nerddom. But
okay. That's fair. I'll roll with that.
I agree with that. So we are the official podcast of us. We are friends who like talking about. We have no affiliation to any official venue or what venue is the wrong word? What's the outlet perhaps?
Yeah.
So but hey, we're friends. We like watching and absorbing this nerd culture stuff.
So might as well be productive with it, or
right.
At least semi-productive.
And it's good. It's a matter of record. Because when we're old and our kids, want to listen to stuff and how their parents were when they were younger or whatever, we can like, hey, listen. I don't know. You want your kids to listen to this stuff, and we'll find out.
Maybe
to clean this up. But hey, it's a digital age. Let's talk about it. Let's record it. I feel like we're accomplishing something when we go and watch these things now and accumulate them and share our opinions. Because it's the age of sharing. Your opinion, because everybody's opinion is equal because of the internet, right?
Yeah.
So
apparently.
who's to say that we're any less important than Rotten Tomatoes, right?
Whatever. Fuck Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, yeah, I will say, I nothing annoys me more than people like, hey, it's got an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. Who gives it?
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, I understand there's some kind of rating scale. I think that kind of warps people's opinion.
It does.
Like when we're gonna this episode. It's a great launch point. We're talking about Daredevil, right? The Daredevil TV show. Now, I've heard like the general reaction to people on Daredevil. Like everybody thinks it's good,
Yeah.
But I've not sat down and like listened to, watched, or read a review of it because I don't want to like taint our conversation,
Yeah.
Because when I used to actually write for reviews and stuff for newspapers and whatnot, and I would always try to avoid other reviews because all that stuff's going to influence your own opinion. So you're kind of like subconsciously regurgitating someone else's take on something.
Yes.
So, I like it to be fresh, Yeah. And we all love listening to podcasts, YouTube reviewers and stuff. So, we're not Kevin Smith, okay? We're not,
no.
But
however, Kevin Smith these days isn't Kevin Smith. He hasn't done anything in a while.
Yeah. That Fat Man on Batman is just eking out every few weeks or so, but
yep.
But he's gotten back into directing now, so he's got other things. But yeah, we love listening to podcasts. So now we want to give back, right? This is our giving back to the podcast community. That's what this is. So and this is our we're back on iTunes. This is kind of our third iteration. So I like to compare it to Mystery Science Theater 3000. You're familiar with the show, Lance. Mm-hmm. So like originally when they first started, they had some public access, like public TV. Station, so that was like their first season that nobody talks about because they showed like movies they weren't allowed to. Use a lot of copyrighted material.
Yeah.
And then their second iteration, they were on Comedy Central for a long time, and then they finally settled in on Sci-Fi Channel, which canceled them. But be that as it may, so this is kind of our third take on it. Third time's the charm. But we're just throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks. We're just having fun with it. That's the important thing. I think we always look forward to because whenever we see a trailer, like, oh man, I can't wait to talk to Lance or whoever we'll have many guests, many co-hosts, come through Nerds Explain It All as the show goes on, and we just look forward to discussing this with each other because we want to know, we want informed opinions, from people opinions we respect. You go out in the street and you're like, hey, did you see that Terminator trailer? Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, that's it. Crickets.
Yeah, it was cool, wasn't it? Well, how about those Astros? It's just you want to have a real discussion about it. So, to people that can go on your level with it, and that's what we enjoy doing with each other. And so you'll meet our various other co-hosts and friends and guests throughout the show. But another way to look at it is we're like Spider-Man. Okay, we're the third. We've gone through Tobey Maguire, we've gone through Andrew Garfield, and now we are the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man. So no better segue than to discuss Marvel Cinematic Universe's new Daredevil. Now, Daredevil at Netflix exclusive show, and it got released this past weekend. And Lance and I sat down and watched it in one sitting, which was absurd.
Yes.
And these are not, I was under the assumption that it was going to be like 45-minute episodes, but no, these are like an hour. Like when they say an hour, they're an hour long. So it took us it's been our entire Saturday, just Daredevil nonstop. And we never really done something like that before.
Yeah.
I think the closest is, you remember, this a little insight into where we're coming from on the nerd front. Remember when the 8th season finale of Smallville pissed us off so much we stopped watching Smallville?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a big deal for us, because Smallville was like a weekly tradition, which like Flash and the Arrow have kind of picked up the torch, thank goodness. Mm-hmm. And the 8th season finale of Smallville, Clark just kind of walks off and does like a Field of Dreams thing, and it's like, what I don't know. And it was a really lame fight with Doomsday. It was Doomsday in Smallville, right? But be that as it may, that was disappointing and just very insulting as a fan of the show. And we just literally didn't watch the show we recorded all the episodes, right?
Yeah,
for season 9. But so we waited, and then like one Saturday or something, we sat down, we watched the first half of Smallville season 9. And, it was very interesting to experience to watch everything all at once like that. Because a show like Smallville is built to be like week to week,
Yes.
So it's not telling one continuous story. And the difference between something like that and something like Daredevil is what we're dealing with here with these Netflix original series. They're basically, 13-hour movies,
Uh-huh.
They're like the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Basically.
Just it's one story, everything. There's not like the episodic nature of like the procedural or, Daredevil's not, who's he going to defend in court this time, and how is it going to tie into the big story? They had a season-long arc, and they just told it methodically. And then, that's how most other countries tell stories, be it Europe or Japan. They have their seasons, and they call them series everywhere else, which is confusing when you start talking back and forth to people. You ever seen
the first series?
The second series of The Office? But
There's only been one Office, 7 seasons.
Yeah, God. So, with a show like Daredevil, you're just watching the same thing. It's like nonstop. There's not really any flavor. Normal TV shows they'll have like, here's the comedy episode, right? Or here's the Christmas episode, right? Because they're kind of spacing it out and timing stuff with what correlates to what's going on in the real world. But this show, it kind of exists in a vacuum. And there's some definite pros or cons to that. Mostly pros, but we'll get into that as we talk about it. So, Lance, you're of the two of us, you're the bigger Daredevil fan. So what was your first impression of the show? When you first heard they were going to do a Daredevil show for Netflix, what did you think?
I was excited. As somebody because I watch, I knew that it was going to be quality, and I knew it was going to be really good. That's the main reason why I was excited, for 2 reasons. Number one, as much as I liked the first Daredevil movie, like the Ben Affleck one, I thought it was all right.
I enjoyed that movie. I think it really gets a bad rap.
It does get a bad rap. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't terrible. It's not Spider-Man 3, but
right.
It just
at the time
it
was fine. You know what I mean? Like in the early 2000s, like pre-Marvel Cinematic Universe, pre-Dark Knight trilogy, that was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. So especially the extended edition.
And I love Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin. He's my favorite part of that movie. But
so I just figured that with the TV show, you can you can really flesh things out, and you can really kind of get at the core of who Daredevil is, instead of having to just jam pack it in to a 2.5-hour movie. The other part is I knew it was going to be quality because it was a Netflix show, and as somebody I love House of Cards, for example. That is a high quality show. And so I was like, well, if it's going to be on Netflix, and what I've heard, that's it's the only Netflix show that I watch, but I've heard the other ones are really good as well. So that kind of gave me some confidence that, they're not going to just put some crap on there, because they're actually going to take their time and make something really well. So those are the 2 reasons why I got really excited about it. And then the more I started hearing about it, how it was going to be early days, he was going to be wearing the Black Ninja outfit for most of the time. When I saw that, Rosario Dawson was going to be in it, just more and more things that came out about it got me excited about it. So that's why I came into it with, very either not, I wouldn't say optimistic, but just looking forward to it a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. And, Daredevil really is the Marvel Universe equivalent of Batman,
That's the easy one to say. Really, he's more like the Marvel equivalent of Nightwing, the way his style is. Not necessarily in personality, but just in other aspects of his character. He's more like Nightwing than he is Batman.
Well, there's your Ben Affleck connection right there.
Yeah, there you go.
My only exposure to Daredevil was the film, 2003 film, and then the Daredevil Yellow by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, and their color series. Jeff Loeb. Jeff Loeb. Okay, he writes Marvel very well.
Well, it's
Okay.
because he's a Marvel fan. Like
Uh,
he has every Marvel comic from like 1960 something up until the present
that's
day.
true. That's true. What was that on? Like, was that like on a Comic Book Man episode
No,
or
that was on Fat Man on Batman.
Batman on Batman? Okay, that's what. Yes, there's Kevin Smith connection again. But
Yeah.
Jeff Loeb, man, like this guy, he okay, he wrote on Smallville, and he was okay, I guess. I don't know, but he also wrote Heroes, and he got fired because Heroes became terrible. And Agents of Shield, need I say more? He's an executive producer over there. That show's garbage. I don't care if it's gotten better; it's garbage. Okay, they had how long did we watch? We watched the first half of the first season.
Yeah.
Okay, we gave it a fair chance, and it was garbage. Okay, and so was Gotham. Okay, so don't act like we're just DC fanboys over here. We are. Don't get me wrong. I'm a DC fanboy, but Gotham's horrible too. So equally on each side of the coin. Okay.
Yes.
Apologies to Image Comics and IDW and Dark Horse, but let's be real here. So those two are out, and also Jeff Loeb. He writes great. Jeff Loeb rant almost. My Jeff Loeb rant is almost over. I promise. He writes great like setups, like these great like the Batman stories, right? Long Halloween and Dark Victory and Hush, right? But when it comes to like conclude everything, it's like, well, what? Like, he has the most unsatisfying conclusions. Like,
he doesn't know how to.
Him and Scott Snyder are neck and neck in, like, unresolved, unsatisfying conclusions. So when I saw Jeff Loeb was attached to this, I was like, even when we saw the opening credits, I was like, oh, Jeff Loeb.
Yeah, we both did that. We both just kind of sighed.
Now, the opening credits is pretty awesome, I will say.
Yeah.
That's a lost art, I think, in a lot of shows these days. A lot of broadcast shows now. This is the first Netflix show, like, I've watched, Lance, and you've obviously watched, like, House of Cards. Does House of Cards have an intro?
It does.
Something like that. Okay, all right, cool. That's a lot. Like shows like that, HBO as well. Like shows like The Newsroom, stuff like that. They do have
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, yeah, exactly. Great example. Those have opening credits. And I think that's a lost art from kind of get you in the mood of the show. And I will say we did not fast forward through the opening credits once.
No, we didn't.
Good for us. Probably because we needed a slight breather from the episodes themselves.
It's true.
But yeah, I mean, we watched 13 of these straight, and it's pretty good. Now, Daredevil looked like his comic book self in the opening credits. Looked nothing like his comic book self in the show, but we'll get there.
Well, to a certain extent, yes, he did.
Yeah, now his costume, I think Steve, one of our friends, and you'll hear him on the show soon enough, he referred to it as the Dread Pirate Roberts costume. I could not think of a better example. I was a little disappointed when I first saw it. If you've seen any promo images for the show, you know what we're talking about.
Well, see, as the Daredevil fan, like somebody who's read Daredevil comics and stuff, I was thrilled that they were doing that aspect of the character because that just kind of that was another thing. Like since I found out they were doing origins and telling like first year type of thing, like that's what he did. That's straight up from the comics. It's straight up from Frank Miller's The Man Without Fear, and I thought that was great. That gets you away from like immediately having to have the costume right away, and sometimes it's good that they doesn't have it. So I think that was a nice welcome change.
And you see him evolve, the costume.
Yeah.
And I think it was good. They had a good. I mean, it took a long time, but it was a good evolution into getting the. What I hope is not the permanent Daredevil costume. I was very disappointed in the red costume, so I have a whole new appreciation for the ninja outfit. Because I was like, this looks like, I don't know what this looks like. It looks like Dark Knight meets, I don't know, Pacific Rim or something. I don't know. Like, what did you think of the final costume in the finale when he finally put on the red?
It's I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, it was just kind of all right. It didn't offend me or anything.
Yeah, it wasn't like offensively bad.
Yeah, it looked like one of those like alternate costumes, like for like a video game or something. Like if you were like player 2, like that's what it looked. That's what it reminded.
Yeah, you're the other Daredevil when you fight in Mortal Kombat or something.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. So it didn't offend me or anything.
I do hope that they improve it. Like, look, this is his first night on the job with it.
Yeah.
So like, kind of like in the Flash TV show where he had, he had the suit that Cisco gave him and the pilot. And then they customized it a little bit as the show went on. So hopefully, like the next iteration, and when season 2 starts, look, there's going to be a season 2. This show's been wildly successful.
Yes.
He gets the double D on there, the Daredevil, because he's been named Daredevil now. So
yeah, if anything, that's kind of like my only complaint is that that there's no logo. because that kind of like solidifies it, you know.
Well, and like I said, the Flash didn't have his logo in the first episode either.
He
so
didn't, but like there's like an obvious space for it. Like it's just like that's going right there.
Yeah, well, Daredevil's on the side, so you never know. I mean,
you never know.
I like the Affleck costume a lot better than this. I know people seem to not like it.
The Affleck costume's all right, also. Like,
what else would it be made out of? I don't get what
people.
I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason people wear leather, like when they ride motorcycles, because when they fall off, it just makes sense. So
no, I agree. So I had no problem with that costume either. And it's granted, it's not like my ideal thing, and I have no idea what would be my Daredevil definitive whatever. But it was. I mean, I had no problem with it.
A lot better than that Superman costume from Smallville, am I right?
Agreed.
The non-existent Superman costume. I remember when, of course we read message boards and lurk and stuff, and before the Smallville series finale, people were talking about, what's the costume going to be? Is it going to be Superman Returns? Are they going to, because they had shown the Superman Returns suit on the show, you know? Like, are they going to customize it, you know?
And they were using the logo for it.
Right. And so and somebody said, you know that emoticon that like has the big eyes and a little small mouth, you know? Somebody said, what if there is no costume?
Yeah, I know, right?
They left that emoticon, and everyone's like, oh, ha, ha, ha. And that's exactly what we got. Damn them. They gave us a CGI Superman.
Yep.
Lots of reasons that may or may not have happened, and we will talk about Smallville at some point on this podcast. But that's his own, God, that's episodes and episodes worth of discussion.
Oh, man.
For 10 seasons. Come on.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting one.
But yeah, so Daredevil, you know, we started off, and it's not. It takes a page. I'm gonna takes a page out of Arrow's book, as if Arrow invented this. But you know, more like the non-chronological. That's the thing nowadays. The Christopher Nolan, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's non-chronological. It doesn't start out with him as a little kid. Well, I guess it does. Like the very first scene, you see the car accident that the chemical splashed in his eyes and gave him his powers. Now. They kind of establish that's what gave him his powers. I mean, it takes a while to get there. Like,
well, no, I don't think they kind of established it. I think they established it. It's just vague. They keep it vague, and I think they do it on purpose. Like, you know, probably for monetary reasons, and also just for some added mystique. I think, especially like when everything's so blatant, like because this is, I mean, it's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Mm-hmm. So at least that's what I'm inferring it is from some of the things.
Yeah, I mean they're all connected. They mentioned Iron Man, Captain America, Thor. You see
the exactly. Headline, so with them being as overstated as they are and so grandiose, Daredevil is not that type of a character. So I think that was a decision that they made on purpose.
Mm-hmm. And it takes them. It takes you. Well, pretty much you get flashbacks, not in every episode, but there's probably about 4 or 5 episodes.
There are significant. They strategically place the flashbacks. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that also. So
yeah, and I was surprised that they spoilers, massive spoilers now. Okay, like if you haven't watched Daredevil, stop what you're doing
and watch Daredevil.
Watch the whole show for 13 straight hours. Do whatever you need. Call into work. Do what you need to do. Just. Put your life on hold and watch the show, because that's the thing about these Netflix shows. Like, people can spoil because some asshole who like
us.
We waited until Saturday at least. Okay, there's some people like it came out like midnight Thursday, which would be Friday. Yes. So some people like waiting for that and they watch them all. Yeah. And they start posting stuff. It's like, hey, slow your roll. Some people don't have 13 hours. Spare. I mean, I'm lucky I was free this week. I mean, we're both lucky we were free this week, and it just kind of worked out that way. Like, had we had other responsibilities, we would have attended to them. Okay, we weren't going to be like, oh, whoa, hey, you got to change, you got to reschedule that, brother, because we got Daredevil to watch. Okay, I mean, that's the highest priority. Like, if this were, and we were talking about this as we had watched it, because I mean, yes, we like Daredevil, right? But since we're not like Daredevil is not our Batman or Superman. I'm a Superman guy. It's my favorite hero. Lance is a Batman guy. Okay. Yeah. So, like, if this were a Batman or Superman show, we would not have binged it like this.
Yes.
Right? I mean, why? I mean, I certainly felt that way, and you agreed with me, Lance.
Yeah, I would have wanted to definitely take my time and enjoy every single thing, wanted to, like, absorb it, like, as much as I possibly can. And, like, hell, probably watch each episode, like, several times before moving on. So
right, because, I mean, the dedication and craft to these are just great. So well done, right?
Yes.
And you don't want to just it's like getting a gourmet meal and scarfing it down. You know, you want to savor it. You want to you want to let it digest. You know, so yeah, if this were, if they ever make a Batman show like this, which they never will, because the sad thing is Batman is a victim of his own popularity. If Batman were some like, no offense to Daredevil, but like some arguably like C-lister, B or C-lister on the other side, on DC side, there could be, maybe one day we would see like an HBO show or a Netflix show or an FX show for that matter. Who knows?
Yeah,
right?
Who knows?
Something like that for Batman, because he's so popular, they won't put him on television because they know people will pay a top dollar to go see him on the big screen.
Yeah,
which is a shame because if they made a Batman show like this, it would be the best thing ever made.
It
would
be.
You just imagine, like Lance and I have talked about this for years. Like if there was an HBO miniseries for Batman, and like you take and you just there's so many there's so many story arcs you can take, and apply them like the first year is year one, right? And then the second year is like Man Who Laughs and Long Halloween, and then Dark Victory, and then eventually you go down the line and you can see the Robin. I mean, you can really dig into the mythology.
Yes.
Because the way things are now, you get a 2-hour movie every 2 years if you're lucky.
Yeah.
If Christopher Nolan or J.J. Abrams are your director, every 4 years.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, because wait for those franchises. So you really can't dig deeper and get into the you'll never get past a certain point until the actors get older and they got to reboot and you're back to where you started.
Yep.
And you'll never get to Tim Drake. Right?
Never.
Much less Damien, for God's sake. You're lucky if you get... Now, in the new DC universe, I think there's going to be... Like, there are reports that there is a Robin costume in the Batcave. Like, that's assumably Jason Todd. Mm-hmm. So, hopefully we'll get something. Because I'm sure they'll do, like, a Red Hood spinoff, right? So
probably.
So, Daredevil, right? So, speaking to that point, Lance, was this based off a specific comic book storyline, or was it just pieces that they put together of their own
that they put together, and the main one being the Man Without Fear, the Frank Miller one that kind of did his origin and stuff.
Now Frank Miller, did he do Daredevil before Batman, or I don't know?
He did do him.
So that helped him get the job.
Yeah, he did it in the '80s, the early '80s. So I guess I think he did Dark Knight Returns after his run on Daredevil. So
much like Affleck, Frank Miller used Daredevil as a trial run to Batman. Daredevil is your Batman internship, apparently. Well, that's good. But yeah, I mean, because Born Again, Kevin Smith wrote that, right? Guardian Devil, right? Or these are stories. So they can take all these famous ones and adapt them as the seasons go on. There's just so much material. For as I said, like a B or C list like Daredevil, there's so much material. Just imagine how much there would be for a Batman or a Superman,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Superman you really can't do on a TV budget, as we've seen.
Yes.
For various iterations. Batman, totally. Absolutely. So for Daredevil here, speaking of binge watching, so there's 13 episodes, okay? And, I'm going to be honest, like, a lot of these episodes kind of blur together. Like, I don't, when you watch them all at once, it's like, which one happened when and all this stuff. I mean, we'll just kind of go like an overview here, but I think the first episode was great with the introduction, and I have we were tweeting.
We did
the most self-conceited thing to do. We were like basically tweeting each other as we watched the show. I think everything we tweeted got liked or retweeted by each other. Yep. So I'll just kind of keep this open in the background here and mention when we felt the need to say something on Twitter. Like we were not live tweeting this by any means.
No,
but I wanted to pay attention because that's always you try to live tweet stuff because we've done it before with like Flash or Arrow or Gotham. It's tough because you get one eye on the iPhone, one eye that blonde in the third row. To quote. But T-Mac joke there. Our interests go over sports as well. Yeah, T-Mac. So the first episode, it starts out with that kind of flashback, and then and then it's credits and it's Daredevil, right? Mm-hmm. He's already existing. I like that. I like how we jump into it. Kind of like with Arrow, we don't have to wait. We get the pieces we need in the past of his origin, but he's already got, kind of like I know people hate it, but the 2003 movie, we got through it quick. He just started out, it was Daredevil. His origin was a little bit of a flashback. Actually, the whole movie's a flashback, isn't it?
Yeah.
So and then we jump right into it, and The one of my favorite lines now, which we're going to use now between us and our friends, is Matt Murdock is asleep, and his best friend, his business partner, Foggy, calls him, and Daredevil answers it. He's like, "Hey, what time is it?" And Foggy says, "Half past. Get the hell up." So apparently, whenever Lance and I ask each other what time it is, that's the answer we're going to receive, and we'll ask anyway because it's what we do. So that was funny. I love Foggy in this show. Foggy was like the best character in the show. He and the Kingpin. Yeah, and so Foggy was in Mighty Ducks. You said. Yeah, he was in Mighty Ducks. He was Fuller or Fulton. He was one of the enforcers. Is he in the first one, the second one, or he's in the first two. Mm-hmm. The Mighty Ducks, not to get confused with D2, the Mighty Ducks. Well, that is the second. The subtitle has the same title as the first movie. Thank you very much, title people. He was a duck. You know who else was a duck? Joshua Jackson. That's right. He would have been a good Daredevil. Should have had him in here. Yeah, I'm serious. He would have been a good Daredevil, I think. He's got that kind of scruff look they're going for. He's kind of taller, darker hair guy. That's true. But anyway, he's busy with. He's busy. What is he doing since French? That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, hopefully he and Olivia got together. No, do you know what's her name? Anna Torv was actually married to what's his name? Mark Valley for like a year. Get out of here. Yeah, and then they got divorced. And so I was like, oh, that's funny because like their relationship on the show was kind of clandestine, and it was in real life. And then maybe that's, I don't know. I think that's there. I mean, that's bad, but like I was like, oh man, now no wonder he didn't show back up on the show. Yeah, like because he would have been perfect for like an alternate universe, like and all that stuff in the alternate universe. You telling me that John Scott, and what's his name? Agent John Scott. I seen him think so. Like he wasn't alive. Like her boyfriend in the alternate universe, she has the red hair. Yeah, that totally would have been him. Had the actress not gotten divorced, and it was awkward. Mm-hmm. So, segue, or that's not a segue, that's a tangent. All the actors in the show are great. Mm-hmm. Karen Page, right? Now, she was in True Blood or something. She was in True Blood. Deborah Ann Woll or whatever. It's very key. The female lead is always very key to these shows because shows can rise or fall on the strength of their female lead. And she was great. I mean, she starts out as a murder suspect. Yeah. That was a very strong beginning, and that's how she kind of gets brought into the fold, and she's tied into all these conspiracies and stuff like that. Yeah. She kind of really has her own plots, and we'll get to it at the end, but like, she kind of has her own subplot set up for the next season as well. So because Karen's a character that was always into stuff, always getting in trouble, always had some issue going on. Mm-hmm. She was very angsty, and she was always up to something. Yeah. And then, let's not forget the main character, Charlie Cox, as Matt Murdock or Daredevil. It was great. I'd never seen this guy in anything. Me either. He was apparently in Stardust, which I never saw, but directed by Matthew Vaughn, kind of a fantasy movie. Michelle Pfeiffer's in it. Robert De Niro is in it. So I'll have to check it out because he kind of does a small role in it. But as far as I know, but he was great. Yeah. I probably liked him as Matt Murdock more than I did as Daredevil even. Yeah, he was a great Matt Murdock. But he was very like he never really went over the top with anything. No. I think the thing with the Affleck movie is they kind of played it for laughs all the time, like, oh, he's blind and Yeah. But really didn't really do too much of a Batman voice, So that was good. I mean, there were certain. We had to laugh, and I know we tweeted this when he finally says near the end of this season, he's like, I'm not the bad guy. Yeah, he does. He says it twice. He said it. I'm not the bad guy. I don't know why. That was so funny. But, as the show goes on there, they build up to the Kingpin. You don't immediately see him. So I think that's good. It kind of builds the mystique. And it's Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin. Now, I said it before earlier. I loved Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin. Yeah. I thought he was perfect. Like, if you're going to change the race of a character, like whatever, especially one like that, like who better in that time could have played the Kingpin, right? Yeah, because he needs to be like an imposing guy who can kind of hold his own, and deceptively so because he's a big guy. Yes, that was part of his character. Exactly, and I always like Michael Clark Duncan too. I mean, he's a great actor, and it just he was one of those bigger guys that actually has some charisma and can act. Yeah, The Rock is the only closest thing we have these days, because Arnold and all those guys are kind of past they're way past their prime. Yes. So Vincent D'Onofrio, this guy was cold blooded.
Yes.
And this guy was amazing.
Not only him, the whole show is cold-blooded.
Yeah, I mean, this is some hardcore stuff. Like, is this? It has to be PG-13, right?
I guess.
I don't know if there was like a rating or.
I'm not sure, but it's hardcore the way that, like, because, like, that, like House of Cards is. And that's House of Cards. This is like a political drama, but, like, hardcore shit goes on in that show.
I mean, you have some brutal murders and fight scenes. And
well, the fight scenes are great. Choreography in this is top notch.
I mean, I think I think at the end of episode 3, a guy impales himself on a fence through his eye.
I know.
So I said, my tweet was, even Daredevil can't believe it. He just didn't see.
Yeah.
But I tweeted because, oh my god, it was just that was like, I won't be showing my kids this for a while. My kids are gonna be watching Batman 66 until they're 13. But taking advantage though, and that's the whole angle of the Netflix show, taking advantage of the format. They don't have to appeal to mainstream audiences and sell toys and that kind of thing.
Correct.
I actually did a little research on this, like, because I thought to myself, how is Netflix making any money on this? Like, who does this? But apparently the setup with all these shows, House of Cards, Orange is the New Black, and all that, they can show it indefinitely with no additional cost, because other shows have to, like, pay a fee. They have to rent, if you will, Star Trek, or because all that's on there and that kind of thing. Any show you see on there, they have to rent, and they also they get a percentage of the proceeds of, like, the because they produce the show. Of course, the DVDs, the Blu-rays, that kind of thing. So it's not. I mean, they don't make money the same way, like, a show like Arrow makes money for the CW. But it it causes a lot of people to. Because I thought, like, who's gonna specifically subscribe to Netflix who doesn't have it already for Daredevil, right? But I guess people will. Like, I don't know. Like, do you think people, like, are there any? I don't know. If there are any huge comic nerds, they probably have Netflix already.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. I mean, I think it's more about the buzz and the positive. As long as it's a wash, like, financially, which I'm sure they do the math. They can afford to do it, because it's just how much publicity and stuff are they getting now. I mean, House of Cards alone, I think that really was the first big one that broke through. Yeah, and I think a lot of people got that for just, Kevin Spacey and all that. So it's interesting because the dynamics are completely different, and that's important to think about, because we'll immediately compare this to something like Arrow. Because Arrow, he's the urban vigilante. He's TV's Batman, right?
Yeah.
And you think, man, why can't Arrow be more like this? But you got to understand, Arrow is on a broadcast TV station, okay? So they can't be having guys impale their eyes with fences. And they also have lots of demographics to appeal to. Being on the CW, it's the female demographic. So they got to have their CW-ness, because Daredevil, I had to describe it to someone. I would tell them it's like Arrow Unleashed. Unchained from, like, the CW-ness. They got to have, like, the young sexy couple doing this, and they got to have the girl over here doing that, and they got so there's so much fan appeasement to the audience, I should say. So this can just directly.
You can say fan service. It's okay.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but this doesn't have to concern itself with that. It's just going straight hardcore what the story is. And there's no filler either. Like, 13 episodes telling one story is tight. For any show that lasts, I mean, back in the 80s and 90s, hour-long shows had, like, 26 episode seasons.
Yes.
At least that's how Star Trek and the X-Files work. That's my comparison. But shows today only get 22, but even then, like, there's so many filler episodes, right? And like we were saying earlier, like, there's the episode where this at, or it's here's the amnesia episode, and here's the all the tropes of the genre, And when you get 13 episodes, you can map out your story. You can tell it with, like, a good pace. And because you can tell in shows like Smallville or Arrow when, like, they thought something was going to be wrapped up or whatever, and they had to stretch it out even further, like the story just goes off the rails,
Yeah.
So you got to remember that. So it's unfair to go back, because I know, like, we even said this to each other after, like, man, can we go back and watch Arrow after this, or The Flash? It's unfair to make those comparisons, I think.
Yes,
because it's just a completely different animal.
It's different sports, man.
It's like baseball, football. You can like it for all. You can like football because it has a clock and all this contact or whatever, and you can like baseball because there is no clock. And the defense gets the ball, right? Only sport. Ken Burns taught me that. I didn't even realize that until I watched that documentary on baseball.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the only sport where the defense gets the ball. I'm like, oh, that's true. Yeah. But, and I'm glad that there's so much. People will, we live in the golden age of like, what do you want to call it? Superhero entertainment, comic book entertainment.
Yeah.
You really do not even need to read comic books anymore.
You don't,
because
and that's hurting the industry too.
Well, I mean, and I'm good because comic books suck now. You know, let's get real about it. Like comic books are garbage for the most part. Like they're a dying industry, and they just reek of desperation. All these like reboots and all this stuff.
We're starting back over at issue 1.
Yeah, Lance and I went to Comic Con
with everything
in 2011, and when they launched the New 52, and we got caught up in it. Okay.
Yeah.
We subscribed.
They hooked us
to way too many comic books than we should have, and we've kind of methodically weeded them out. And now that the New 52 is ending, June, I believe it is.
I think so.
We're going to cancel most, if not all, of our subscriptions from DC, at least.
Yeah.
Now you, Lance, you subscribe to a lot of Marvel comics. One of them being Daredevil.
Yep.
Right. Mark Waid,
fantastic.
Is he still writing Daredevil?
Yes, he is.
Right?
It's fantastic.
Mark Waid is one of my favorite comic writers. Him and Jeff Johns. And Scott Snyder, it's hard to say. I mean, I'll read his stories, but the conclusion is not going to come. So
yeah.
But those guys, Mark Waid is great too. I mean, he wrote Kingdom Come, right?
Yes.
That's his big one on the bookshelf, the master bookshelf, the must read bookshelf.
Yeah.
Probably Kingdom Come, but he's gone from DC and Marvel and before that, Ed Brubaker was writing Daredevil. So now I take it back. Ed Brubaker is definitely in my top 3, up there with Jeff Johns. And I guess I like Mark Millar. I like some of his like work, like Red Sun and stuff. But he
kick ass, man.
Yeah, but he seems like too much of an asshole in real life. He seems like he's like,
man. It comes across in his writing, but like my favorite thing that he's ever done is kick ass. I love that shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
Now, is it over now? Kick-Ass?
Yeah, it's over. It was great. Fantastic.
Was it all a dream?
No.
Okay, because I know there was... I remember I was reading something about it. Like, it was implied, maybe, because they were, like, in the hospital or something. And
nope.
You saw, like, Kick-Ass in a hospital bed with his dad, who was already dead at the time. Spoilers, who gives a shit? So, good. I'm glad it didn't go that route. So,
no.
That would have been a good twist, though. Like, after that... Like, the idea was, like, after his first time out crime fighting...
Yeah.
He got his ass kicked. He's in the hospital, and he's like in a coma or something. Everything since has been an illusion, which I think that trope's getting old.
Yep.
So, but back on Daredevil. So we finally get our real introduction to the Kingpin, and I guess the it was like the 4th episode, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then and his girlfriend, Superman's mom.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to pronounce.
Can't pronounce her name.
Her name. Aliet Zurrer, as she was in Man of Steel as Lara, and now she's Vanessa. And talking about, it's funny that we talk about the CW-ness. I would say if there was one like CW aspect, it was the Kingpin's love life. I found that amusing to me. But Vanessa, she's an important character in the comics.
She is. She's important to him because like she kind of is like she's the K to his Michael Corleone. As far like, and this is like Godfather 1-ish.
Right. Well, in the comics anyway. Now, in this show,
the comics,
she doesn't care. In this show, she is like
she's Claire Underwood.
Yeah, she's the power behind the throne kind of thing.
Yeah.
So very interesting relationships there. And then this is where like Kingpin just loses it. He really gets like unleashed on this guy because he's like this calm, cool character. He's got everything under control. But then, behind it, you peel back the layers, and he's just, like, very mentally unstable. And he basically, because this guy kind of messed up his date with Vanessa, one of these Russian mobster. Date. Yeah, it's the most important one. Or is it? I don't know.
No, it was their first date.
But he beheads a guy with a car door. I mean, damn. Like... And then he always says his because all the bad guys have their assistant, right? Their dutiful assistant, the evil Alfreds of the world. And what's it? Wilson? Was it James Wilson or what
Wesley?
Wesley? James Wesley?
Yeah.
Okay, so Wesley, you wouldn't understand, Wesley. You don't grow up in the Bronx, but he's like this. He's his right hand man. He's always there to like care for his every need and stuff throughout the whole show. And he's just kind of like. Even he thinks it's too much. He has to like get out of the car.
Yep.
I just love. It's very interesting how they always cut back to him like when stuff is going on. You know, like his reactions to things, like, you know, when like he always has to translate for Kingpin, like to speak Chinese or Japanese, and then there comes a point where he doesn't need to anymore. So he just kind of awkwardly stands there, looks kind of like he's frustrated at his own uselessness.
Yeah, his role has changed.
And they have a very interesting relationship because they really are friends, you know, but he is his subordinate. And that's all. I always find that a fascinating relationship with the villains, you know.
Yeah.
Because it's not like freaking like Otis from Superman and Lex Luthor, you know. Just complete lackey who gives no respect. Like Kingpin really trusts. I mean, he's got
that's his only friend.
He's got Wesley picking out his wines for him at his dates and all that. So
yeah,
she's like, maybe you should go out with him or something.
Yeah, he did not find that funny.
No, but yeah, you know, and there's so much going on, and it's not just everything. And this is a well-made show. The only on Netflix shows can do this. Every plot, there's not a wasted plot element. It's not a wasted storyline because everything ties together. Because behind all this, you have Ben Urich, who is a reporter. And I looked this up. So he's a reporter
the Daily Bulletin
for the New York Bulletin. I was like, what the hell is a New York Bulletin? First of all, why didn't they just use the Post again, like they did in Daredevil the movie?
Yeah.
Because in the comics he writes for the Daily Bugle. But at the time, when Marvel made the show, they had not worked out the deal with Sony yet, so they couldn't use the Daily Bugle. So I thought, why didn't they just use the Post like they did in the Daredevil movie? But the New York Bulletin is now it's one of these free comic book things that Marvel puts out. Like it's I don't know if it's like monthly, but it's like as needed to advertise their comics. You know, kind of like the New 52 has the whole like Channel 52 news in the back.
Yeah.
This is like, I don't know, like one of these like two.
They have it on Arrow and Flash too. Channel 52 is the news station.
Yeah, so that's the equivalent. So I'm like, okay, I can see that, but they're using this, you know, in universe, so I can appreciate that now because I was like, New York Bulletin. I didn't know New York has a lot of papers, right? I didn't know if there really was a New York Bulletin. It was just it's just annoying when it's like this made up, you know, thing like that. But so that's the logic behind New York Bulletin, and you know, I found the Ben Urich plotline very relevant. You know, I mean, they're talking about like the state of the media today, you know, and like how newspapers are dying, and you know, the versus like bloggers and facts and, you know, double confirmation and just like the ethics of journalism and all that. And he's kind of taking Karen Page under his wing, you know. So what did you think about that whole plot line with like she's like his apprentice, if you will?
I thought it was good. I thought it fit both characters. And it was organic, and it didn't come across as like really, really dumb. Like, you know, like, you know how sometimes in genre shows where it's just like, enough with these people, like, you know, just going and investigating stuff. Like, you're just obnoxious. Kind of like how like Lois and Jimmy were in Smallville for a while.
Oh, the worst. Yeah,
it was just like, just go away.
Before he wasn't Jimmy anymore.
Yeah, but this was all right. And I also like, you know, like you were talking about like how it was touching on stuff that happened today. Like one of the bigger scandals that they were talking about that they were trying to like, you know, uncover and like, you know, fix was that whole like, you know, apartment and tenement thing that was going on. That's like that's Donald Sterling. That's I mean, like point for point. So I was just like, wow, good for you guys.
Yeah, and they weren't like preachy about it, and they weren't like self-righteous about it.
Yeah,
they were just like, look, this is what's going on. You know, this is the world we live in,
yes.
right? So this is going on here, and then it all kind of ties together, like everything going on behind the scenes with Kingpin and whatnot. And you know, Urich's investigation of the Kingpin is the only kind of because he uses playing cards for some reason,
yeah,
like to map out like the criminal underworld, right? And the one at the top, he puts a king and he puts a pin in it.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, that's the Kingpin, right? But Kingpin is a word. You know what I mean? Like Kingpin is like there are crime kingpins, and he is the Kingpin. You know, that's so it's weird because usually they try to do those roundabout ways to get out. Like Catwoman, she's a cat burglar, right?
Yeah.
So they try to get around saying Catwoman because Christopher Nolan doesn't think it's real or realistic enough to say. You
Whatever.
know, but we've soured on Nolan, haven't we?
Oh
but,
yes.
Man, 2008 seems like a long time ago.
No joke.
But I could have just called him the Kingpin, but I appreciate they at least put it in there because they call him Wilson Fisk the whole time. They never referred to him as the Kingpin. But if you know that he's called that, you see he's got the King card with the pin in it on top of his board. You know.
Yeah, it's alluded to. So
it's very you know, speaking of the board, like first of all, that looked a lot like the Flash. You know, with all his secret. You know, who does that anymore? who puts papers on the wall and we live in the digital age, people. You don't need like all these these classic conspiracy theory rooms of like running strings between pictures and all that stuff. And the other Flash reference would be when they have the charity event in one of the later episodes, and there's poison champagne. Like I literally just saw this in the Flash 2 weeks ago with Mark Hamill.
Yep.
But they wrote and shot this way before the Flash, but just the way the distribution goes, and they look like they're second. So. But no, keep going through the episodes though. I mean, Rosario Dawson was great in this show.
Yes, she was.
And she was basically the equivalent to the night nurse, Lance.
Yeah.
And who is that character? Like, what is her deal?
That's it. I mean,
wow.
She had some other
lots of depth there.
But basically, that's the main function. Is just she's an acquaintance, she's a friend. And that he goes to when he needs it, and as she said, like, I'll be here to patch you up. So
yeah, she'll definitely be back, and then she's even quoted saying she'll be back in future episodes.
She likes this stuff, so
I was that's a talent you're not going to get on a broadcast TV show. She's not going to be showing up on Fox or something. So another advantage doing a Netflix style. And I was, you and I were both like tweeting throughout like I said, we're tweeting throughout the show, and I think I always found like at least one quote per episode. So I think one of them here was like, Daredevil, maybe I just like the sound of your voice.
Yeah.
Because he's talking about her. I did like how, I think every like 3 or 4 episodes Netflix would ask, are you still watching Marvel's Daredevil? Continue watching? Like, yes, we're watching. It asked us like before the last episode. It asked us this. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like we went through 12 episodes, and it's like, oh, nope, that's enough, guys. You got to stop. It's like when the Wii would tell you, why don't you go outside
and play?
There's like
run around.
A picture of a window and a couple trees.
Yeah.
But man, so lots of characters here. Now there are some dangling plot threads. Like they introduced Stick, who was his
his mentor,
who would have been played by David Carradine had he not died from autoerotic asphyxiation. That's true. So Scott Glenn.
I only laugh because it's true.
Scott Glenn, everybody's favorite David Carradine replacement. He was in Sucker Punch, which I've never seen. Now you've seen Sucker Punch.
I have,
and you own it on Blu-ray. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I haven't watched it. I just haven't.
Well, anyway, got to support Zack Snyder and his work. But
right.
Scott Glenn was in that. Clearly a role that would have gone to David Carradine.
Yep.
But so what's the deal with Stick? Did you like the way they portrayed him here? Or?
Yeah, he is. He's supposed to be an asshole. So yeah. Uh-huh.
And the whole heartbroken little Matt Murdock about the ice cream wrapper, but he still had it after all these years.
Yep.
So, yeah. And he'll be coming back for season.
Yeah.
two.
Oh, for sure. Stick is in and out.
Now I did a little research, and apparently he was talking to Stone. So sticks and stones, very clever, very clever. I get it. So the war that they're talking about, because they're training for a war. Was he Batman? But they're going to be against the Hand.
Yeah,
you think? So there's going to be like basically these old ninja
dueling
clans.
Ninja clans. Yeah,
they're going to come into conflict, and that's going to.
Well, they're already in conflict. It's just they're going to ramp it up.
Now Daredevil fought
a Hand agent.
And that was pretty cool.
That was.
He looked like something out of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. And again, it was just crazy. It was just like, whoa, like there's so many different things that happen in the like throughout the show. They're just like, oh wow, I can't believe they're doing this. This is, but then again, it's not like, like Flash where you really are thinking that, man, I can't believe they're really doing this. But this, like when they put stuff in there, like when he fought the Hand person, that was, Ninja, that was like, well, it makes sense. Like it was not out of the realm of possibility for that. So.
Now, I think the episode before that, I believe it was probably my favorite episode, and
the Kingpin episode.
Yeah, the Kingpin episode,
best of the series. Yeah. That was fantastic.
And whenever I think it is true, whenever you like do like the character analysis of the villain, because they're the more layered, the more fascinating characters always. Those are usually going to make for your best stories, and that's the case here. It was really, you see the Kingpin when he's a kid, and his dad's an asshole. You can see where he gets a lot of his anger issues from. And the sad thing is, and that's a lot of the cases like this. He was just this kind of dopey kid, and he's got a mom who like won't speak up for herself because she's afraid of her husband, and her dad is just an asshole, And through various events, he runs for city council, he doesn't win, so he gets real mad, and finally he just I'm sure it's happened 50 times before, but he starts beating his wife again, and Kingpin little teenage Kingpin,
Yep.
can't take it, so he picks up a hammer, and his dad like tells
Beats
him,
the shit out of
well,
him.
his dad like he's like, you're not gonna do anything, you're weak, blah blah blah, and he turns his back on him, and he just cracks his skull and kills his dad. Like,
Yep.
holy, that is hardcore and dark stuff, and then they kind of quietly dispose of the body, and that's that, and that's kind of his origin. It kind of ties together this whole. It's a very interesting through line throughout the whole season. Is Kingpin? He buys, his Vanessa, his girlfriend, is a art gallery owner or employee. I'm not sure which, but he buys this weird painting. It's called Rabbit in a Snowstorm. And it's just a bunch of white. It's new. It's like this new age art crap. Like I love going to like the art museum, and it's like, here's our modern section. It's like the number 5.
Yeah, that's some bullshit.
A tire.
Bullshit.
Like a broken...
Number fucking 5 on a piece of white canvas. Are you kidding me? Get the fuck out of here.
A broken lamp like on a table, right? It's just like, oh, it's the struggle of light over darkness or something.
It ain't the struggle of shit. It's the struggle of you actually trying to. Oh man, I could go on.
Well, anyway, so that's the kind of art gallery this place is, and he buys it, and you're like, this is weird. Like, you think it's just gonna be a one-off random thing, But there actually is a theme there. He has a nightmare every night, and he gets up and he looks at it. And you realize that his dad used to like put him in the corner, so to speak, when he used to beat his mom, and he it was just like a white wall, like a plaster wall, and it looks just like this,
Yeah.
And then not to jump too far ahead, but at the end of the show, like the last scene of the Kingpin is he's in his prison cell, and the side of the wall looks just like the side of his house. So
it's crazy.
It really ties together quite nicely, just his whole broken psychology. So. That probably the best episode of the series. I mean, these are all great. Like, I don't think we went through one episode and we're like, eh.
Yeah.
I think kind of almost like the second or third episode to the end, we're like, kind of starting to lose steam. Like when maybe we were just getting tired because it was
we were just getting tired,
approaching midnight. I think maybe the little subplot before you knew where it was going. Where Karen takes Ben Urich. Yeah, another thing is Ben Urich's wife has Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
And she's in the hospital, and he's like trying to get insurance for her. I mean, just real life stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And so like Karen takes him to this nursing home upstate. You're like, what is this? What kind of
like,
weird side plot is this?
Yeah.
And then eventually it turns out they found Kingpin's mom, who he had told everyone was deceased, and that kind of opens up some possibilities for them. They find out some information. It turns some plots on a whole new head. And throughout all this, by the way, there's like the mob boss, like they're all vying for control of Hell's Kitchen, which I will say they don't actually establish where and what it is in New York.
Yeah, but I think like New Yorkers know, and like people who
I'm not from New York.
There. I know that, but like it's a nickname of a actual real place in Manhattan. So
well, I will say what you will about the Daredevil movie. Like at least it established these things,
Yeah.
Stay out of Hell's Kitchen. They do mention like the reason all this is possible is because New York just got leveled by the Avengers invasion.
Yeah.
So that tying that together is good. So you have like the Russians who the Kingpin like kind of. That's one of the Russian guys who he decapitated with his door.
Mm-hmm.
So you have those guys. You have the Japanese, who is the old lady Gao? Is she
Madame Gao?
Madame Gao, is she Japanese or Chinese?
Japanese.
Okay, so she's Japanese because I bought her in Japan.
Yes.
Anyway.
Ooh.
Shouldn't have paraphrased that way.
Nope.
But the hand are from China.
Yes. No, they're Japanese also.
No, I thought one. No. One of them Chinese, one of them Japanese.
Okay.
All right,
well, the hand in general, they're Japanese.
You're knocking you down. You're a level 11 nerd now. You're knocking. So okay. So those guys are Japanese. The other ones are Chinese. Okay?
Yes.
So basically, Daredevil and Kingpin kind of uses the Daredevil to take out the Japanese, the hand.
Mm-hmm.
So and he gets burned alive, which is pretty.
Brutal.
And we were talking about it. That's when Daredevil and Kingpin had their first face-to-face confrontation. And it's kind of disappointing that like Kingpin just kind of strolls in and gets to fight, but Daredevil's been fighting this ninja master for like 30 minutes already.
Yeah, exactly. And he has like actual like flesh wounds. Like he had like that damn ninja weapon like impale him and was pulled across the room.
I thought I don't know. Like, you think the episode like ran short and they're like, yeah, because there's no reason for there to be flashbacks in that episode.
Possibly.
Like, I don't know. Maybe they just wanted to build the suspense. Because I usually hate episodes like that. It's like 24 hours earlier, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we didn't even mention this. This is way back, like episode 2 or 3.
It was episode 2.
Okay, because the guy impales himself in the eye. I think it was episode 2 or 3. I'm not sure, but he kills a guy with a bowling ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you got a bad attitude, friend. It's cool. That's something we tweeted. It's just, damn, like someone who goes to bowling alleys. Damn.
I know.
Oh man, but so Kingpin fights Daredevil, and he's like, "Oh, would have loved to fight you in your prime," you know.
Yeah.
And that's when Daredevil finds out about the Kingpin wears this. He has all his
armor.
All his lieutenants wear this this Kevlar kind of material. Yeah. So it's smart because first of all, they never know what situation they're going to get in. They're in a dangerous line of work, being in the mob, if you will. And so Daredevil that sets off the idea that he should improve his suit because it's basically just a ninja outfit, with no padding or anything.
Well, no, it's more. It's less than. It's not even a ninja outfit. It's like it's just
turtleneck and some blue jeans.
Yeah.
And a bandana. But now I will say this about the show. Now I was curious if they were going to show how he sees, Daredevil's sight, and they do like once for like 5 seconds. Like he's talking to Rosario Dawson, and she's like, "Oh, I see a world of fire," and you just kind of see. Kind of like what Neo sees in the Matrix when he's like in the real world. A little bit, yeah. It looked just like that to me. And that's it. They leave it at that. Now, I will say that if I had one like nitpick complaint about the show, that would be it. Because the movie actually the movie establishing things. Like it establishes that he sees through like sonar. He carries around his little cane. I don't know what you would call that thing, but he taps on things to kind of see the vibration, so that allows him to see. Because he is disabled. The show almost makes it seem like he's never blind.
Yeah. Well, that's what Foggy asked him. He's like, "Are you even actually blind?"
Don't leave a damn thing out. Misspelling Hanukkah is a mistake. Hanukkah's hard to spell. There's 3 or 4 accepted spellings of Hanukkah.
There were some really great lines throughout that. That show.
And I love how so Foggy finds out his identity, by the way.
Yes.
Which is great, because you always gotta have the friend. Because the thing about Daredevil is he's never really had anybody. Spider-Man, much like Spider-Man, you think of all the DC characters have like their 1 or 2 guys they can trust in, but guys like Spider-Man and Daredevil, they got nobody, So it's
he always had Foggy after a point.
Well, I think the status quo, is kind of like you know what I mean though. Like the status quo with Spider-Man, the status quo with Daredevil is like nobody knows their identity. That's what makes them the more hard luck heroes than anybody. Mm-hmm. Foggy, their whole friendship. And you see flashbacks of them in college, so that's cool to see them. Avocados of law.
Yeah, that was good.
But no, for real though, about the site though, I think that's a huge I guess they just really didn't have the budget to show it, but they could have shown. They could have spent a little more money on that and a little less money on something else to kind of establish what your hero's abilities kind of were. They do the lie detector thing. They do the kind of camera effect where you can tell when he's using his quote super hearing, because that's kind of what it is. But I just think they really didn't establish the limitations of his powers. That was a big thing about the end fight in Daredevil movie. He couldn't see, and then he sets off the sprinkler system, and he can finally see again, and then he fights the Kingpin. Or he's stuff like vibrations, like the organ or the train, stuff. I'm talking about the movie now. These things that happen, it's like his kryptonite, if you will, sound, And I thought that's a good thing to have because he just seems like he's freaking invincible for no reason, what do you think about that? Do you think they should have shed some more light on that, so to speak, or
maybe? I like what they did with the Affleck movie, but again, it could be they intentionally just kind of kept it vague and just kind of kept it mysterious or whatnot, just to kind of distance themselves from it, because maybe they're trying to find another way to show his power set. Maybe they didn't come up with one, so they just decided to not really do a whole lot with it, so that way to avoid any unnecessary comparisons.
That is a good point. I did want to bring this up too. I'm glad they really did distance themselves from the movie. There's no Elektra, although there's an Elektra reference.
There is a reference, but it was appropriate, and they moved on from it. That was it.
Yeah.
So now she could be in season 2. Yeah,
exactly.
When the Hand shows up,
because she's a member of the Hand. Is that correct?
Yes.
I never saw Elektra, so
I didn't either, but I read the comics and I know.
Was Terrence Stamp Stick in Elektra?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I never saw Elektra.
I know. I know Terrence Stamp was in it. And he was also in episode 1 of The Phantom Menace, so
yes,
take that issue well. He was also in Smallville for several seasons. Only his voice, though. So the Scarecrow was the Scarecrow's dad was Superman's dad. God, goodness sake. That's a good point though, because there was no Bullseye here. You know, there was no Elektra. All of like the things that you would associate from the movie weren't here. You know, like even the whole bow staff or whatever you want to call it thing was not here to the last episode of the suit, stuff like that. So it really was a different flavor, kind of like the Nolan movies was so far removed from the Batman movies that had come before to kind of get you invested in this world. You know, so that was good to do. That's a good point. Maybe that really was what it was. But I just feel like maybe next year they can establish it better. I just feel like that wasn't quite established, because if he's not blind, then what the hell is he? Like, what's so special about him? You know?
Yeah.
So Stick Stick doesn't have these weird powers.
He doesn't. He's just blind.
So I think they made him a little too powerful. I mean, because he can like sense stuff. Like they almost like took Daredevil's abilities and applied him to Stick. Even though he was like, he is this hyper trained ninja also. Well, he has that going for him. Here's the deal. I just don't want to see, and I don't know if this exists in the comics or not. But you know how in Arrow, like, okay, there's Oliver, and here's one other really good archer, right?
Yes.
Oh, and here's another really good archer. Okay, all right, cool. Oh, here's another good archer. Like, okay,
hey,
stop.
but he only said there's only like 12 of them.
Right. Well, there's about 10 of us, and 5 of them have appeared on the show already. You're 6.
Yeah.
Really though, it's was he counting Yao Fei? But or Shadow? I don't know. But yeah, you don't want to be like, oh, look, here's another blind guy. Because that's the thing with Arrow. Like, oh, he has bow and arrow. Well, naturally, all the people that come to town are gonna have bows and arrows, right? I mean, the League of Assassins, like at least Maseo and Nissa use bows and arrows, really?
Well, they have them. They're not as proficient as Oliver is.
Yeah, because he always beats Nissa. She's worthless. No wonder Ra's al Ghul wants him instead of her. Take over the League of Assassins. There's just no more blind people with powers. Okay, they need to stop the Stick, and I think that's fine to have the one, right? The 1 in a million guy, right?
Yeah.
And that's another thread. They, in Stick's episode, they're like, what about his mother? That's a story for another time.
Too complicated. Because
obviously that's who his dad was calling, Now, in the comics, his mom is a nun? Is that correct? Okay. Mm-hmm. So, I'm sure they'll come back to that. And then, of course, there's a whole nother plotline with Karen Page, her backstory.
Yeah.
As well as the consequences of what she did in, like, the second to last episode. She killed Wesley.
Yeah.
Which, was like, whoa.
Yeah, didn't expect that.
Even he didn't expect that. He was trying to talk his way out of it, and you think I've shot someone before. Boom! Oh, Karen Page! So, that's... But I think the weirdest moment in the entire show was that last scene where she kind of looks at the audience. Like, what are you breaking the fourth wall for? Like, I don't like.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was. I mean, if it's like, Matt and Karen have a thing, but I'm not sure what that was.
Yeah, like I don't. That was just weird. I don't know if they knew what it was. It was just really that. I know we both like laughed out loud at that. Like, it's the only thing that really took us out. Usually we're talking mess and throughout the whole, whenever we watch anything, right? Mm-hmm. But for the most part, this show was like, whoa, this is serious. I'm gonna treat this with the respect it deserves.
Yes.
But that kind of made us like, what is this? I know you mentioned Matt and Karen having a thing, and I know because I've read Daredevil Yellow that they did, and I know she dies at some point too. So
she does.
That'll be. It's
a whole lot of shit happens to her.
They don't. There's really no limit to how long this show can be, which is great. So it's not like, oh, it's the end of season 3. We better kill off Karen. They could do it now. They could do it later. But she's a great character. So I hope they do an amazing Spider-Man her and just kill her off like immediately.
Agreed.
Let's give it some time. I mean, there are other love interests for Matt Murdock. Obviously, Elektra would be the big one.
Yes.
So I guess Elektra's kind of like the Talia or the Catwoman for him.
Yeah.
It's more like Talia. We just I guess we need to stop comparing Daredevil to Batman. But don't blame us. Blame Ben Affleck. But the finale now. No, you know what? Before I get on the finale, now Foggy, his whole character, right?
Yeah.
Loved him. He was great because
Foggy's the man.
You think he might just be like going along with like Matt has to be the guy to be like, no, we're gonna do what's right, Foggy. But you think you would think maybe he's always having to like. Matt's always have to put Foggy back. Hey, no, we were going to do the right thing. This is wrong stuff. But really, you see, because, they have a rift for a while. And when Foggy's doing his own thing with Karen, like their investigations, you see Foggy really is just as good a guy as Matt. Yes. I think that's really important because there's like a trope of like, oh, here's the good-hearted partner, and the goofy partner is always trying to get one over on him, Like, oh, but there's no like some crazy scheme Foggy's trying to do to make money. Here's, turn him into Kramer or something,
Yeah, no, Foggy is a legitimately smart guy. He's an actual good attorney.
Because
he's a smart guy.
I mean, he is the comic relief, but like he's a comic relief like in real life.
Yeah, like he's just a real dude.
Yeah, who exists in the real world and makes some jokes. He's kind of lighthearted, but he's a real person too. He's not a one-note character. And I think on a lesser show, he totally would have been like just the wisecracking, like crazy scheme kind of, we can make so much money, every episode. I will say that part of the pros and cons of like talking about the way the TV shows are these days, and not just the Netflix shows, but like shows in general, they're so like arc based. Yeah. You really can't go back and watch one episode in a vacuum,
It's true.
Because if you did, it wouldn't make any sense. Like Heroes is probably my favorite comparison. Like you can't go watch one episode of Heroes,
You can't do it.
But no, I will say though, like if you were to, and this is why these are the episodes that stand out the best. They're the ones that kind of tell a self-contained story. That's why the Kingpin episode is so good here. I think Shadows in the Dark, I believe its name was. So because that kind of has its own like inner character arc, and like self-contained. And same thing with Heroes, like 5 Years Gone, where they go to the future, or The Company Man, which is the equivalent of the Kingpin episode, where you focus on HRG, but you focus on one character, and you kind of have it self-contained, satisfying story. Because nowadays you can't really do that. I mean, there's shows like there are definite pros and cons to episodic shows.
Yeah.
And full shows. Like obviously we watch this all in one sitting, which is absurd.
Yes, it is.
But even so, it's meant to be watched all together. Like you can't just like randomly, because I'll go back and like, I want to watch this episode of Star Trek, and I'll go watch it, and it was cool. You're not going to be like, I'm going to go watch that one episode of Daredevil.
Can't do it.
But I don't know. I mean, what do you think about that?
About like just episodic shows versus this?
Yeah, like what do you prefer? Like,
I don't know. It kind of depends on what the show is.
Because you have your binge watching ability like this, and then you have your rewatch ability.
Yeah.
Because the independent shows like Batman the Animated Series, right?
Yeah.
That's rewatchability because you get the one episode here, the one episode there. It's completely different format and context, but I think it's important to have both that exist.
Yeah, I agree, and because especially since this was like my first foray to actually like binge watching something, I've never done something like that. I'm a old school type of guy, and I like to watch my TV shows one episode at a time every single week. I enjoy the anticipation of not knowing what's going on. I enjoy waiting in the summertime to figure out what's going to happen next. I enjoy that type of stuff. So now it's kind of weird getting used to like just watching a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
Like, and I'm just talking about like new content. I'm not talking about like old stuff that's already on Netflix that I've already seen that I just enjoy watching. That's completely different.
Well,
because those shows I watch the same way I just described.
Yeah. But speaking of getting spoiled or whatever, it is cool because like there's no like next time on Daredevil or whatever. So you really have no idea what's coming. If you're and that's why we wanted to keep watching. Because God forbid we'll be on Facebook and some asshole will post some picture of like Wesley dead in a chair. Oh my God!
I can't believe they just did that shit.
Hashtag Karen Page for the win. Or oh really? Come on. So there were a lot of the moments here that weren't. Nothing was really spoiled. Because you hate it when they put stuff in previews or even episode descriptions. Right? I didn't read anything about this show because I didn't want to be like have any kind of preconceived notions. So, but yeah, I think what I was getting at there. I think why that crossed my mind was I would have liked to see more of Matt and Foggy in court. Because we only really got that one episode.
One time.
I guess was he their only client, and Fisk pays so well. That's the only one they needed for a while. So
yeah, I know, right?
Some blood money there, Matt. But they were using it for and I liked how Matt was using that for his own purposes, and Foggy was like, "Hey, I thought we weren't going to do this," And then once again, that kind of shows how he's a real character. Because if this were like a real procedural, it would be like. Like Franklin Bash or something, right?
Yes.
Foggy, like objection. Check. Stupid. Whoever that guy that plays
motion to strike.
I don't know which one's Franklin, which one's Bash.
I don't either.
But the blonde guy, he would have been a good Foggy. Just some goofy, lighthearted guy. But man, I think hopefully next season maybe you can get because it'll be different. That's the great thing about these Netflix shows. Every season is very different from the previous one. I mean, I know a lot of people criticizing House of Cards because of that. Like, oh, it's so different. Like, what, you want the same thing every year? Go watch some stupid show on Fox. So maybe we'll get, because they'll be a more established law firm now. You know, they have a real sign.
That's true. Well,
have more court cases.
Part of the thing is they still like they're established, but like they barely make any money all the time. Like they're not like living it up because it's just like the three of them most of the time.
They're gonna get paid in fish, like they did.
Yeah, like shit like that. Like that's what happens to them. So,
but I do hope we see more of that because I did like that a lot. It was really good because he thought he had beat the system, but he didn't. You know, and it was some interesting because there were obviously some shades of the Daredevil movie in here because it's based off the same source material. So it was interesting to see the two different approaches to it.
Yeah.
And I don't think one is necessarily better or worse than the other as far as the approach, the execution for sure, the show. But
yes.
but yeah. So getting to the finale. You know what? The spoilers. We already said that, but massive spoilers now. So turn back. What episode did Urich die in? The one before? Because it opens with his funeral, right? Man, that was probably like the most visceral scene. Even more so than the guy getting his eye like stabbed, because that's just like that's almost like RoboCop, where it's like violence to the absurd. We have to laugh at it almost, you know, like oh my god, you know, like when Kingpin like shows up in Urich,
that dude.
Well, yeah, that too, right? But Kingpin shows up in Urich's house and strangles him to death.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like over the top violence where you're like, oh my god, he just Kingpin. You know, it's like
it's just dark and like damn, like he actually just did that.
You know, because Urich is probably one of the best characters. Like if I had to say my favorite characters, would probably be Kingpin for one, ironically, Kingpin and Urich, ironically, and then Foggy. You know, I mean, I like all the characters, right? It's hard to really say, but I really did connect well with Urich's character. You know, being from journalism and stuff. And his whole, I mean, he had the wife, you know, and then the funeral where he's like, Karen's talking to his widow, and she's like, oh, we never had kids, but if we did, you know, we wouldn't have wanted a daughter like you. I'm like, oh, get you in the feels, man. You know,
they did.
So the whole Urich thing sounded very well, and
like some real feels too, not like like prefabricated bullshit.
Yeah, it wasn't all this like orchestrated drama. It's like you really feel for these guys, you know, and like she says, like she's gonna be okay because he had some insurance and he's taking care of me even now. I'm like, oh man, that's like real life stuff. This stuff happens every day. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And you know, and so for as sympathetic as they try to make the Kingpin, like you know, he does enough stuff for because one thing when he kills bad guys, you're like, I think I was a Russian mob officer anyway. He had what's coming to him. Like he just killed like Urich, you know. But you kind of see some. He's like, you brought my mother into it, you know. So you know, it's tough, you know. But that was some tough stuff, and they you know, I guess they could have gone more places with Urich. I guess in the comics he's still does he know Daredevil's identity in the comics or
at some point? Yeah, he does.
I know in the movie he does. You know, oh man, and the end of that that wasn't that the Kingpin episode where like he comes out of the like he has the press conference and stuff. Yeah, so that's another reason why the episode was the best. It had the best ending because you have the narration of Urich's like article about how some people think they deserve a happy ending and whatever, they think they're better than other people and that kind of stuff. Like, man, that's good stuff, you know. And then,
that plus like you know because they were about to like you know take him down and everything, and like he just goes out, he just beats him to the punch.
And the juxtaposition of him like coming into the public and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and then you also see the Kingpin living that happy life, you know, because he thinks he deserves it, you know.
Yes,
and that's the villain's problem. They always think they deserve it, and the heroes, you know. It's just very well done, the balance of good and evil on the show, and that's another thing I wanted to say. You know, I like Daredevil a lot. One of the main reasons, one of the bigger reasons, whatever. I'm not that big of a fan, but I rapidly am becoming a fan of Daredevil. I'll have to either borrow or maybe buy some of these graphic novels, Lance, per your recommendation. But I love how like religion is addressed here.
Yes,
because we're religious people, you know, and and so much fiction, religion is either made like comedy, like. Oh, church.
It's not taken seriously.
Yeah, or it's like, oh,
it's the ultimate
church,
evil.
You know, right? It's like, no, it's like, this is, you know, because Daredevil, you know, comes from a Catholic family, and he doesn't quite go to church, but he seeks guidance from, like, you know, the local priest, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, he actually has some really good conversations about good and evil with this guy. You know, and that's good. Like, it's a good use of religion. That has religion serving its role in society, like, correctly. You know,
like in Deep Space Nine.
Exactly, yeah, Deep Space Nine, right? I mean, they don't shy away from it; they embrace it because that's faith is an intricate part of people, whether you want to admit it or not, right? I mean, some people be like, "Oh no, we're beyond that." No, okay, yeah, that's a whole other conversation. But I'm glad how they incorporate it because these are real people in the real world, and faith exists, and it's important, and there's stuff going on there, and it's discussed. Like some good conversation, and I believe that was in the same. I think that was the episode after Kingpin. I was like, man, this episode was just as good for completely different reasons,
Yes.
Because he's like, do you believe in evil? And he tells him this whole story, and it's good stuff, I mean, just so layered, just so authentic, and stuff like that really elevates this above your standard just superhero action adventure fare,
Agreed.
And that kind of brings us to the finale. So what did you think of the finale?
I thought it was what it needed to be. It wasn't the best episode of the series, or the season, I should say, like most finales intend themselves to be. But it had what it needed it to have in there, and it was fine.
Kind of went a little Dark Knight, though, don't you think?
In some respects, yeah.
Didn't have quite the budget to flip the truck. It just fell on its side.
Yeah.
Of course, had the villain monologue at the end where he's like the Good Samaritan and the I am the ill intent. Like, the self-revelation, Very, very Lex Luthor. And I was, God, Vincent D'onofrio would have been a great Lex Luthor.
He would have been.
I know how it's cliche because he's bald, but Kingpin.
But the way he acted, yeah.
Yeah, because he's like, the city, and he really believes in what he's doing, the convictions, and, seeing, I did think, like, Smallville, shape when he sees his little kid self in the mirror. Like, how Lex saw his, like, conscience of a little kid. Mm-hmm. And then, also, where Lex, like, I am the villain of the story, like the turn
favorite
at the
line.
end. But every Smallville promotional material has that clip. I'm like, that's from season 4, right? Yep. And this is a 10-year show. But, and there were certain points you could tell, like, you don't think about it, like, on the surface, but you can tell that, like, this is a TV show. They don't have the budget the movie does.
Yeah.
Because, like, at the end fight between Daredevil and Kingpin, they're just in an alleyway, which is fine, by the way. Like, I like that's way better than, like, episode 3, Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting for 20 minutes over, like, jumping over lava and running on, flying on cables and jumping on droids and So there's something to be said for less is more there. But the end fight with them was good. Dare I say, I think I might have liked Michael Clark Duncan versus Ben Affleck better, because I like the environment, with the water and all that stuff, and maybe
because that one showed like more like it showed like it gave a visual for his powers that venue that they fought in really kind of like really exacerbated is not the best word, but it accentuated that.
It was a great set piece for it. So, and it's the climax of a blockbuster movie, so I understand. But I mean, this was completely acceptable. It was fine. Of course, he broke out with a new suit, which was we already kind of discussed. I hope they make some changes and give it a little more character for next season. But and I'm sure they will. But it was I mean, it came down to Kingpin and Daredevil in an alleyway. And then it had, the character who I always forgot existed, the Foggy's friend in the police department. Mm-hmm. He was the guy. I'm not the bad guy, I loved how earlier, though, and we talked about this while we were watching it. Earlier, Daredevil had a couple run-ins with their ally cop. He was like, so Kingpin frames Daredevil for all this stuff, and so the police are after him. And the ally cop corners Daredevil. He's like, hey, you're the guy that murdered those cops.
Yeah.
Blew up those buildings. And don't that it's like, there's always that guy who says that. Like, who in the real world is like, hey, wait a minute. You're that terrorist who did this, this, and this. Hey. It's like,
things are worse than ever.
Yeah, that guy. No more dead cops.
Oh, no, that's not worse than the, Dark Knight Rises. There's only one police in this town.
Oh, God, the worst. What? Chris Nolan, man. Let's see. Relationships with women, extras, and like serious emotional moments. Chris Nolan movies fail on all fronts. That's why he always says the wife or the mom is dead. He's like, okay, don't deal with them. All right, and let's tell this in a weird gimmicky concept where no one thinks about like the emotion, and let's not have and let's don't let the extras talk.
Yeah,
no more dead cops. She turned itself in. Anyway, the finale with Daredevil, Kingpin's going to jail, but Daredevil, Nelson Murdoch are up and running, and then we got the trope with the old Lady Gal is actually pulled a Master Yoda.
Yep.
And I expected a little more of that. By the way, another really creepy, depressing thing is Gao, the Chinese, is that what we said? Or is he Japanese? Did we say? So So her people, her role in the city is the heroin and cocaine and whatever, the drug making and packaging. And basically what they do is they have like hundreds of, I don't know, hundreds, dozens, I don't know, of people who have blinded themselves, so they won't reveal information, I guess, or I guess that's the idea, right?
Yeah.
And so they, it's creepy. It's really creepy throughout the whole season, really. And it's a weird juxtaposition that Daredevil, who himself is blind, obviously, to have all these people, like you see all these people with their messed up eyes and they're blind and they're putting these drugs together and this and that. And so Daredevil kind of like sets them all free. I'm sure there's something to be said for that. All right. I don't know what it is. There's some commentary to be made on that. But so the master, the mastermind behind all this is this sweet old, Asian lady, and you think she's just so nice, and she's a slave driver basically who mutilates her slaves, if you want to put it that far. And you think Daredevil's gonna like confront her, and you think, how's this gonna go, right? And then she busts out with some kung fu move, like, oh, lady kung fu.
Yeah, I would have been very disappointed if
that didn't happen, right? Yeah. And I thought to myself, oh man, like I wanted to see more of that, but she left, and she'll come back later, and I'm sure they'll have a confrontation. So that's cool. I have to have some serious stunt doubles for that fight, but it was very well done. They set that up too, like where she and Kingpin have some interesting conversations throughout the show, and that kind of set that. So it did not come out of nowhere. So it comes as a nice little payoff, So so there's just so many layers to the show. Like we could talk for another hour, I'm sure. But it's so where would you rank this then as far as superhero shows go?
It's up there. It's at the top.
Well, it's definitely in the top 5.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're just doing live action, which is the only way you really can compare. And like you said, different sports, right? It's hard to say. Well, this is. I wish Arrow was more like this. I'm like, yeah, of course we all do, but it's tough because I when we were talking about Agent Carter, I was like, man, this might be the best superhero TV show. But it's it's more of a mini series, and
well, so is this.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it's hard to hold, like we were talking about earlier. It's hard to hold this on the same standards as like Arrow, because they have to come up with 22 stories and tell it on a limited budget and stretch it out over a hiatus and this kind of thing,
while also appeasing the
masses,
execs with some weird questionable type of things.
Yeah, there's a lot more creative. I mean, Marvel Studios has complete control over everything they put out, which is why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is so odd.
Yes.
Why does it suck so bad? But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, from what I've seen, this might be the best superhero show, like television show. I mean, like as far as quality goes.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue. Like, what would be better?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean, The Flash is really good. I enjoy The Flash every week. I will say The Flash is rapidly becoming like maybe one of my favorite shows ever. Like of all. So it's hard to compare. But I think we'll revisit this down the road when there's more Netflix shows to compare it to.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's what's her name?
Jessica Jones?
Yeah, I always call her January Jones. I'm trying to be correct. Yes, not Emma Frost from X-Men First Class.
Or Betty Draper,
yes,
Francis,
exactly,
from Mad Men.
And then there's Iron Fist and there's Luke Cage.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not going to be watching any of these shows like binge watching like we just did with Daredevil. I think we'll just watch them on our own time. I think Daredevil was kind of, I don't know, he was obviously the most mainstream of these guys.
Yes.
I mean, okay, now these guys are, I call Daredevil a B or C-lister. These guys are absolutely C-listers.
Yes.
If that, so it'll be interesting to see what they do, because there's nothing to compare them to. I mean, there's no movie of these guys, or this is the first time any of them are in live action. So,
agreed.
I'll kind of probably take my time, watch through there. I'm not sure exactly what the schedule is, like when they're going to release these, like what time of year and stuff. And then they're going to all end up in the Defenders, which is like the Netflix version of the Avengers. And then down the road, they'll probably link them up somehow. It's like, put everybody in the Infinity War, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they might as well. They split the Infinity War into 2 parts.
They did.
So let's go ahead and throw everybody in there, right? Except for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Leave those assholes out of it. Can we like have Coulson show up and like the plane? Like I want to see like in Infinity War, I want to see like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the bus as they call it. Yeah. I want to see like it get blown up and then Coulson like parachutes down and he's the only survivor, and then we can carry on. I used to like Melinda May, but she's a word that I'm not going to say on this podcast now.
Yep.
So she just turned to a. I don't know. That's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., man. We gave it a shot. I know people will tell us it's better now, but I don't care.
But of course it's better. Like, it could only go up.
Well, and you get Agent Carter, you get this, and I'm sure these other Netflix shows are going to be good. So I mean, people are not gonna be satisfied. They're not going to stand for that lame ass network TV. Seriously, compare what Arrow and the Flash are doing to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, come on, right? And they have all the resources of Marvel and ABC behind them. So on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So no excuse, show, no excuse. Now the big one, and I think we both agree on this. If there was going to be another Marvel series, Netflix, The Punisher, right?
Yeah, has to. I
mean, perfect for this, right? Put the mature rating on it or whatever they need to do, but it'd be great. Now, I've never seen a Punisher movie. Have you seen them all, or?
I've seen the first one. I didn't see the second one.
The one with Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, I've seen that, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so you haven't seen Warzone with Volstagg.
No, I'm
not. Yeah, I would love to see a Punisher show just because it's a character everybody kind of knows who that character is.
It's in the same vein.
Well, I mean, everybody knows the guy with the skull and the gun. Like, if you're into comics, you know who the Punisher is. But that's it. Like, that's where my knowledge begins and ends. I know he was like a veteran or whatever, or at least he's supposed to be. I don't know what stupid backstory they made for him in the movies, but I think that's the next logical step. You know, I don't even know what other. So outside of that, what other character do you think would be a good fit on a Netflix Marvel show, Lance?
It's a good one. I'm not sure. Hawkeye, the way they're doing him in the current, Matt Aja run or Aja run, I can't remember. Matt Fraction, which is about to end in a couple weeks. If they were to do that on live action, that would be perfect. Because he's not like off Avengering or anything. He's just in his apartment.
I think they can get Jeremy Renner for that.
That would be amazing if they did that. I would definitely tune in for that.
Black Widow Hawkeye show?
No, just it's him and Kate Bishop. So it's good.
Is that
it's
the Mockingjay?
No.
Mockingbird. Hunger Games. I volunteer tribute. No, I don't want that because that one connected to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so no, sorry. Because Adrian Padalecki is on
Tyra.
Exactly. Wonder Woman / Tyra / Siren / Supergirl.
Yep.
God. / G.I. Jane or whatever she is. I mean, I know she's in G.I. Joe. I don't know what her character name is, but G.I. Jane.
No, that's Demi Moore.
Demi Moore. Ridley Scott directed that. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
He makes some odd directing choices, doesn't he?
Interesting.
But anyway, the Defenders are coming when all these are over, and then hopefully we'll restart the cycle and we'll get season 2 of Daredevil. So I'm really excited. I think obviously we're going to see Elektra, because they set her up and the hand versus the stick and stones break my bones, whatever their organization is called. So yeah, I'm really looking forward. I mean, we got to wait. And this is the thing, now, we're one of those people. The people that go buy Harry Potter the night it came out and then read it all. I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to the next book. I'm like, why did you do that? Books are to be enjoyed over a long period of time, and so are TV shows, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's different when you go see because I'll criticize somebody for doing that, right?
Yes.
And they'll say, well, you go see movies at midnight. I'm like, it's completely different. A movie is going to take 2.5 hours no matter when you watch it, okay?
Yep.
Like a book, if you stretch out and really dive into a good book, you can really appreciate that over a week, 2 weeks, I don't know, however long you have to set aside for it. But you're going to sit there and read a 700-page book overnight and then be like, oh my god, I can't wait for the next one. And it's going to be a year.
At least.
It's different when you're binge something like you said, Lance, that you've already read. If you want to go binge read Lord of the Rings, okay, it's already there. You got The Hobbit, you got all that stuff. But when there's going to be one come out every year, and oh my god, I hate waiting so long. Well, don't frickin' read it the minute you get it. It's, Anyway, be that as it may, I'm looking forward to Daredevil season 2. Yes. Should we binge? We're not going to binge watch the next shows, January Jones, Jessica Jones, and all that, Jessica Rabbit, whatever. We're not going to binge watch those, but Daredevil season 2, you want to binge watch it?
Sure.
This is the one thing. Now that we've done it, yes, we're going to have to clear our calendar moving forward. This is the one thing. Oh man, that's good. So final word here, Lance. So for people like me and then the listeners, hopefully there's an S on there. Hopefully there's more than one of you out there.
Yes.
People that they watched this show, they liked it a lot. They want to get into Daredevil. They want to read some good Daredevil graphic novels or collections. What would you recommend? Obviously, we already talked about Daredevil Yellow, which is the one I own. But outside of that, what would you recommend?
The Man Without Fear by Frank Miller, and then also Frank Miller's Daredevil Visionaries Volume 2, because that's what introduces Electro.
Why not Volume 1?
Because 2 is better, and it has it's Elektra's whole basic, her main story arc. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic.
Now, what is
and Bullseye's too. Bullseye is fantastic in that as well.
No. Born Again, is that Kevin Smith?
I think so.
And isn't that kind of what the Daredevil movie was based off, like the death of Elektra and stuff? Is that Born Again or
no? Death of Elektra is Frank Miller Visionaries.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. There you have it.
I wasn't going to say it, but you brought it up.
Well, everybody's seen 2003 Daredevil. Everybody knows. So. Everybody knows, Peter. But yeah, cool.
Everybody knows.
You're not Superman,
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
Makes us noble. It's a good.
And deliver us. Finish it. Finish it. From evil.
I didn't know that the bank teller they go see in Spider-Man 2 was Joe McHale. I didn't. Do you know that? The guy that they want to get.
Right,
they want to get the toaster. And like, at least we get the toaster. And he's like, well, actually, that's with a $20 deposit or something. And he tries to take the gold coin. He's like, oh, shame on you.
Uh-huh.
So.
Joel McHale.
Yeah. He's come a long way.
Yes, he has. Jeff Winger. Thought you were dead.
Speaking of bitch. Speaking of Community, they're making another vacation movie and Chevy Chase is in it?
Yeah, I saw it with Ed Helms.
Yeah, oh my God. Like NBC rejects. Oh my God. I love Ed Helms, but they took a bad turn with his character after season 3.
I agree.
Marrying Angela? What? Anyway.
Yeah.
Be that as it may. So, well, that's Daredevil. I call it a win. So,
agreed.
Put another win in Marvel's column. Of course, DC consistently has the Flash and Arrow on every week. So
they do. However, but if Daredevil shows up in any of these movies, like for Marvel, then fuck you, DC. Like, fuck you.
Well,
especially since they're they have some that new fucker to play the Flash in the movie when you have Grant Gustin, who's fantastic already. Fuck you.
His name is Ezra Miller, and I'm sure he's going to do a great job.
Fuck you. You're not being PC for real.
Well,
fuck you.
Okay. My biggest problem with DC, like not wanting to integrate the universes or whatever. You know what? Fine. Make the universes separate. Let's make it officially like the movies are Earth 1 and TV's Earth 2 or something, right? I don't care how you pick the designation.
That'd be fine if they did that, but I don't think they're smart enough to do that.
Why do you not allow characters like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman to appear, be referenced, or exist in your TV universe, right? Mm. If it's a separate universe, why does it matter, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have the Flash. It doesn't make any sense because they're like, you can't use Batman, or Talia, or whatever. They let you use Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
But you have a TV show on the Flash, and he's one of the members of the Justice League, and you have a movie coming that's about the Flash. So it makes no sense for you. Obviously, there's going to be 2 different versions of that character. Why can't you give us 2 different versions of everyone? Why can't we? I'm not saying Superman needs to show up on Arrow or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying let him exist in the universe. Let Batman exist in the universe. The Supergirl show, excuse me, will really show us
what their plan is.
Because that's by the same people that make Arrow and Flash. So if that crosses over somehow, Superman does exist in that world. So that at least puts him into play. Just theoretically speaking, And then so when you do that, and then they're talking about that Teen Titans show, okay?
Yeah.
So and then Nightwing's going to be the star of that. So that means Batman existed. So if they slowly make sure that I just don't want them to. I hated the fact that they say you can't use these characters because we're using them in the movies. Mm-hmm. Well, why does it matter if you're not making them if you were using them in the movie as that character? That's one thing,
I agree.
But it's different to say we're using them in our universe. You can't use them in your universe. That makes no sense. So it just seems to me like they're just being lazy. You know, they don't want to like coordinate everything. Well, why not? Well, Marvel coordinated stuff pretty good and seemed to work out pretty well for them. You know,
Yep.
so I hate DC is always. I mean, when we were growing up, DC was it. And it really was. You had Superman movies that from before when we were kids. You had the Batman movies while we were kids. You know,
Yep.
and you had all the animated shows and all that, and DC was king. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's just completely flipped on its head, and DC is like the brunt of all these jokes. You know, and you know it's kind of their own fault.
Yes.
So you know, I just wish that they I don't know. I don't know what I wish Josh Whedon Josh Whedon needs to come over, and he's because he's done with the Marvel movies after Ultron. So the Russo brothers are going to direct from Community. See, it all ties together.
Mm-hmm.
are directing Civil War, and they're directing Infinity Gauntlet. So if Josh Whedon needs to come over to DC, now I know that would be like a desperate move, you know. But that's what DC does, you know. It's all reaction and desperation.
knee-jerk, desperate
right?
move.
It's like Batman versus Superman. So I don't know. Oh, but did you see the director of Wonder Woman left the project today?
Yeah.
Totally forgot her name. Sorry, but she was going to be the first woman director of a superhero movie because there was going to be a female director of Thor 2, and she dropped out due to creative differences. And now this woman has dropped out. So, man, come on, man. You know.
Agreed.
I like Zack Snyder though. I like Man of Steel. I didn't love it. Granted, I liked it. Okay, I like Zack Snyder. I like his work. I like where they're going with things. But you're right. It's disappointing to look on the other side of the fence and see Marvel just knocking it out of the park left and right. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. notwithstanding.
Yeah.
And then looking at DC and us, every news announcement is like, oh, you know, it's like for every good thing, like Jason Momoa as Aquaman.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's awesome. But then you get another story like, so this actor dropped out and this director dropped out. Oh, and now we're going to do this movie. Oh, and now Arrow can't use these characters because we're going to use them, you know, or this or that. It's like, oh man, it's just frustration, you know. So I don't know. I mean, hey, what are we complaining about, right? First world problems, right? This is all fun. That's why I like doing this podcast, right? It's fun. It's you know, just to take it because this is a nice corner. Everybody needs this corner of life, this entertainment. You know what I mean? We're not acting like these are important issues. Okay, we know what we're talking about. We're talking about goofy TV shows about superheroes. Okay, but we enjoy it. I think it's good that you got to have that escape. You got to have that levity. You know, because the real world. And if you watch Daredevil, you would know this. The real world is a dangerous place.
No shit.
So anyway, so that's what we're here to do. So Nerds Explain It All. If you want to follow us on Twitter, please follow us on Twitter. We are at Nerds Explain. And yes, I know if you read those letters a certain way, it looks kind of funny.
Yep.
But at Nerds
We
Explain.
are not that type of podcast.
No, we are not. We are family friendly for the most part.
Yes.
At Nerds Explain on Twitter. We are Nerds Explain It All on Facebook. If you want to send us an email us at nerdsexplainitall@gmail.com. If you want to contact me personally or tweet at me on Twitter, I don't know why, but if you do, I'm Guardian of Forever with the number 4 at Guardian of Forever, and that is a Star Trek reference. And hopefully Harlan Ellison will not sue me for using that name. And Lance, how can they contact you?
I am at Sir Lance Laster on Twitter. Pretty simple.
Much more applicable to yourself.
Yes.
Than mine. Look, I've tried, man. Okay, so I've settled in with my Twitter name. Sticking with it. I like it. So, from arguably the universally accepted best Star Trek episode of all time. So, can't go wrong there. So, alrighty. Well, stay tuned. Next episode we're gonna talk about all these trailers that have been coming out this week. There's been the new Terminator trailer. Lots of reaction to that.
Pretty good. The
Ant-Man trailer. We've had something else that escapes me at the moment that I said we were going to talk about. So stay tuned for that. I'm sure it's exciting. So anyway, guys, thanks for listening. And we might not break the news, but we do break it down. All right. Well, you're not going to help me out there, Lance?
Nope.
All right.